Hello again, welcome to another episode of the Uranium Market Minute. Today is Thursday, April 7th, and this is episode number 101. My name is Justin Huhn. I am your host. I'm the founder and publisher of the Uranium Insider Pro Newsletter, the only investing newsletter that focuses solely on uranium and publishes on a regular monthly basis. Thank you so much for being here. As always, nothing in this video is intended to be investing advice. I'm not your financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please always do your own due diligence when it comes to investing and always take responsibility for your own choices. All right, first of all, I just want to acknowledge all of the congratulations in the comments yesterday. I wasn't able to reply to every single one of them, but thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. As far as I'm concerned, we are just getting warmed up here, and the next 100 is coming right down the pike. I really enjoy doing these episodes for you all. I know that a lot of members of Uranium Insider Pro are also watching this, and I do have a bit of housekeeping to attend to in the mailbag section. But either way, member or not, I do appreciate you being here. And we had another really awesome day in the uranium space today. Very, very strong day for the equities. Some of the mid caps did all-time high daily trading volume today, or if not all-time high, very close to it. And something that was highlighted to members last night played out in spades today. So I'm going to talk about that in the mailbag section. Before we do that, of course, let's run through the daily scoreboard where I will discuss the spot price of uranium, the flows into spot and ETFs, and then we will look at the charts, take a technical snapshot of the sector, and we'll get to that mailbag section at the end. All right, so spot price of uranium up again today, 63.25 a pound mid-market, up about $1. Spot purchased another 300,000 pounds of uranium yesterday, and they raised another 10.1 million. They likely were raising significantly today, as though we did see the spot price up a little bit, the trust was trading nicely, and they closed at a very slight discount to NAV yesterday, 0.3%. So they likely did raise more cash today. This thing is an absolute freight train here. The total NAV, the net asset value of SPUT, now currently sits at 3.43 billion. And keep in mind, this is without a New York Stock Exchange listing, which is still in process. We are looking at that for Q3, most likely. Now, this is a new product for the NYSE. That's why it's taking so long to go through the SEC review. We are told that is potentially a 6 to 9 month process that began in January. So we're looking at a Q3 NYSE listing, assuming they get it. It's not a guarantee. We believe that they will, but clearly large funds are not having any trouble finding this thing on the TSX. So no worries if not, really. It's kind of just gasoline on the fire if they do get it. Year-to-date total pounds acquired now stands at 13 million pounds year-to-date. If you were to annualize that, which you shouldn't, but if you were, that's 50 million pounds of buying in a single year. That's the amount of uranium that the US nuclear fleet, the largest fleet in the world, consumes on an annual basis. Unbelievable. Now, of course, as the price of uranium rises, if the increase in funds flow into SPUT does not follow in suit, like in line with the same rise in the price, it's going to be difficult to keep up this pace. However, we do think that they are going to blow out of the water most supply and demand forecasting estimates for secondary demand or institutional financial demand, with 13 million pounds purchased already this year in about 13 weeks. Phenomenal stuff. They've raised 725 million in new capital this year alone. That's barely just a few days into Q2. Absolutely huge. All right, and they're sitting on 77.4 million in cash. Now, the ETFs, URA increased their outstanding shares by 250,000 shares. URNM increased by 175,000 shares. Likely URNM yesterday and today are seeing greater inflows on the news that I spoke about yesterday, that URNM has now become the Sprott Uranium Miners ETF, or will be shortly. The shareholders did approve it, so we should see that change shortly. We did have a conversation today with Sprott CEO John Champaglia. Notes about that conversation will be shared with Uranium Insider Pro members in this weekend's weekly watch list update that I do every Sunday before the ASX opens. So let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. A very strong day across the sector. As we always do, starting off with URA, a nice strong day for this very large ETF, up 5.86% on very respectable volume. Nice to see the uptrend continue within this long-term accumulation cylinder that we continue to track. We do believe that we will continue to move up within this cylinder. We will likely see pullbacks along the way. Overall, this is a very bullish chart. Oops, let me turn on those moving averages here. And we do, in fact, have an impending golden cross, the 50-day rising sharply above the 200-day. I spoke about that a little bit more in depth yesterday. This is a very bullish technical signal, especially when the 200-day is moving up and the 50-day is moving sharply up. Very strong chart across the board with all indicators. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, another good day, up 1.75%. Like I mentioned, likely issuing more shares in that ATM, raising more cash, buying more uranium. They continue to chug along. Now the spot market is getting tighter and tighter, not only because of the sheer amount of pounds being purchased by Sprott and other entities, but it does appear that those potential sellers are holding on to their pounds a bit more tightly. More on that this weekend in the weekly watch list update for Uranium Insider Pro members. Cameco completely up on stilts here, up 8.5%, almost 8.32% on the day. Big volume, traded up as high as 30.93. Either way, it closed at an 11-year high. We have not seen these prices since 2011. Huge performance by Cameco. It is the sector leader. It is outperforming most other equities, and the reason, in my opinion, has much to do with the fact that the financial players, the markets, let's say, believe that Cameco is receiving more attention now, considering the geopolitical situation in Ukraine and the implications for Russian source uranium. The Western utilities are looking to the West. All right, so mailbag section here. Last night, we issued a bulletin to the Uranium Insider Pro members. This is an email that we send out. Now, we don't send these out all the time. We send these out as needed. When there's important changes in the market, when there's important macro moving fundamental news, or when we are entering or exiting a trade. Last night's bulletin came out, and I'm not going to give away everything that was in that bulletin, but one thing that we did highlight was what we feel was and is an inflection point for the equities in the space relative to the price of uranium. Now, we shared some technical charts on that, highlighting some number of elements that we were seeing. So if you are a member, you should go back and look at that if you didn't see that last night. If you are soon to be a member, you can access all of the older material that we put out for pro subscribers. Now, it was important to highlight this because we feel that a recognition of this metric that we track on a daily basis, that the miners have been underperforming the metal, which they have over the past number of weeks, in fact, past couple number of months. They vastly outperformed the metal leading up into the November highs, and then they've relatively underperformed over the past few months. Now, we feel that that inflection point has turned, and it's now the miners' turn to shine. And one element that we believe is leading to this turn in direction, turn in trend for the miners relative to the metal is Sprott taking over the uranium URNM ETF. There's much more to come on that. So I just wanted to mention that we do send out these bulletins relatively frequently whenever there's important information to be shared. Now, on that note, if you are a member, please keep your eye out for a bulletin that is going to be issued tomorrow. We're very excited about a new position that we are entering. And of course, I'm not going to talk about on this podcast out of respect for our paying members, but this is a position we are very excited about. And our next members webinar will be on April 18th. That's a Monday. And we will have a special guest related to this new position. So if you are a member, please keep your eye out for that bulletin coming tomorrow because it is timely. So keep your eye out for that. If you're not a member, like I mentioned, all of our past content is available at all times. And with that bulletin we issued last night, it looks like we absolutely nailed that. The chart is following through as we expected. And I think that it's time for the uranium miners to shine relative to the metal, which also is in a continued uptrend here. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you again tomorrow. I appreciate you being here. Cheers.